fascination with David Letterman started when I was in high school. I loved to watch his crazy, goofy sense of humor. He would have these crazy guests on the show, like the lady who worked at a potato chip factory who saved all the potato chips that looked like ex-presidents. And then he would have the guy on the show that did the stupid human trick where he would jump in the washing machine, put himself on the spin cycle, and come out fine. Well, you know, like all the things that you wanted to do as a kid, but your mom wouldn't really let you. So I watched his show pretty religiously on syndication, and then went off to college. He was always kind of in the background, like I would stay up late studying, and he was always kind of there for me. And I remember when he switched from NBC to CBS, and he came riding in on this white horse. It was like he was bringing comedy with him and like reviving television. So I graduated college and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, my career. The only thing I really knew that I wanted to do was to get out of Mason, Michigan. So I sent off 100 resumes and, you know, didn't hear back. And the one thing that I really could envision myself doing was I knew I wanted to do something creative. That was really the only term that I could come up with to describe my dream job. And I thought I really would love to work for David Letterman. So I devised this plan to get their attention, not just send a resume like I did the 100 other times, but to like carefully hand make something for them. And I didn't really want to go after David Letterman. I figured he probably didn't do the hiring. So I looked into it and found out that Rob Burnett was the executive producer of the show. And I came up with a Martha Stewart recipe for fortune cookies, made my own fortune cookies, and laminated fortune cookies, like things that I thought that would be clever to have on the show, like things that I was good at, like teaching Dave how to country line dance on stage. So I packed up this box of fortune cookies and my resume and sent it off. And I got a letter back from Rob Burnett, which was way more than I got from those 100 other resumes that I sent off. And it said, "We're not hiring at this time, but thank you for submitting your resume." And he signed it, and I still have that letter. And so fast forward, I actually get a job in New York City as a sales associate, which actually turned out to be a glorified secretary. And I was working there for about a year and still wasn't creatively fulfilled. So I was working on 42nd Street, right across from Bryant Park, and Letterman Studios are on 52nd. So I decided to come up with another plan. So on my lunch break one day, I went over to Letterman Studios, and right downstairs, because I watched the show all the time, I knew that Joe G's Pizza was right next door. Joe G happened to be working that day, and I had him make me a pizza that spelled out the words, "Hire me" in pepperoni. And I had thought about this in advance, so I had laminated my cover letter and resume so that they didn't get grease on them, taped them to the inside of the box, and set off to hand deliver this pizza up to the studio. And just to put things in perspective, this was pre-9/11 days, so security wasn't that tight, and the pizza was my credentials for being a pizza delivery person. I get on the elevator, I go up to Letterman Studios, I get off, I go to the receptionist, and I knew that they were on the 11th floor. And I tell the receptionist that this pizza's for Rob Burnett, and she's like, "Oh, well, he's in meetings all day, I'll call his assistant." So his assistant comes out, so actually what happened, I was standing there, and as I was waiting for the assistant, who was really slow, luckily, the bathrooms are right along the wall there, and Rob comes out, because I watched the show, and he made a couple appearances, so I knew what he looked like, and he comes out, and he goes into the bathroom, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Rob Burnett." So I'm standing there, and he comes out, and I was like, "Hey, Rob, this pizza's for you." And he comes over, and he's like, "I didn't order pizza." And he opens up the box, and he sees my name, and he's like, "Tiffany Threadgold, your name sounds really familiar." And I said, "Well, maybe it's because I sent you fortune cookies. Or maybe it's because I send you a Christmas card every year." And then he saw like the glaring message in meat that said, "Hire me." And And that's about when his assistant came out, and he said, well, I'm gonna go eat this pizza. You're in good hands. So I'll just let you, talk with my assistant. And so he left, and his assistant said to me, so what do you think, what kind of position do you want here? And that's when I choked. I had no idea what I wanted to do. She's like, do you want to be a writer? And I'm like, no, not really. Do you want to work in production? Well, what would that entail? I was kind of looking to them to figure out what to do with all of my creative energy. So she took my name, and I left. And I then ended up putting all my creative energy into recycling things, recycling everything off the sidewalks that I found on New York. That's how I furnished my apartment. I didn't have a big budget. And I ended up back in graduate school and got my master's in industrial design, where my graduate thesis was entitled Trash Nouveau, the whole idea of upcycling and reuse. And I ended up writing a book on the subject. And I now am the head of design at a company called TerraCycle in New Jersey. And we're filming a TV show now that's going to appear on a network called Pivot in September. And I finally figured out what to do with all this creative energy. And I no longer want to work for David Letterman. But my goal now is to someday, before he retires, be a guest on his show. Because while I still send them Christmas cards, and on occasion send them postcards from the Blue Lagoon in Iceland and the Louvre in Paris, I think that I would really like to have them see that I turned out okay.